Welcome back to ChatGPT Reality Check, breaking down the world's most pressing headlines. No fluff, no hype, just real stories that moved the world from June 29 to July 6, 2025. 1. Israel orders Gaza evacuation. Hostage diplomacy shifts. On June 29th, Israel ordered mass evacuations in northern Gaza amid intensified operations. At least 23 Palestinians were killed in renewed airstrikes, while Prime Minister Netanyahu announced that the recent Iran conflict had opened a path for hostage releases in Gaza. Diplomatic teams are now racing to translate military pressure into humanitarian relief and the return of captives. Ground-level evacuations suggest an expanding war footprint and a fragile window for peace. 2. U.S. Senate advances. Trump tax cut bill. The U.S. Senate passed a sweeping Big Beautiful Bill featuring deep tax cuts and welfare changes, narrowly clearing with a 51-49 vote. The legislation also allocates $150 billion to ICE and alters emissions credits, impacting companies like Tesla. This marks Trump's first major domestic overhaul post-Ukraine airstrikes, shifting pandemic-era tensions into fiscal policy. 3. BIS warns on global financial fragility. The Bank for International Settlements issued a stark warning. Escalating trade tensions and geopolitical instability are fraying the global financial backbone. Central bankers are now watching deficits, inflation, and emerging market liquidity just as major mid-year monetary meetings are set to convene. Markets remain jittery over Fed rate signals and fiscal headwinds. 4. Europe sizzles in heatwave. A severe heatwave swept southern and western Europe, smashing June temperature records in Spain, 46 degrees, and triggering 30% excess deaths in heat-vulnerable areas. Portugal hit a June record of 46.6 degrees C on June 29th. Italy and Germany recorded their hottest days in decades. Authorities responded with outdoor bans, shutdowns, and public cooling zones, new normal as climate extremes intensify. 5. Quad Summit advances Indo-Pacific security. India attended the Quad Summit in Washington, alongside the U.S., Japan, and Australia, to bolster cooperation on regional security, maritime freedom, and supply chains. Key discussions focused on Chinese influence and critical infrastructure, marking a strategic pivot toward Indo-Pacific unity. This highlights growing military, economic, and diplomatic coordination among democratic allies. 6. MethaneSAT capsizes. Interstellar discovery. MethaneSAT, designed to monitor greenhouse emissions, lost power on July 1st and is now presumed unrecoverable. However, the week also saw the discovery of a third confirmed interstellar object, 3I Atlas, zooming through our solar system. A week of cosmic highs and technological lows in Earth observation. 7. Japan executes Twitter killer and elects female sports president. Japan made headlines. Takahiro Shiraishi, the so-called Twitter killer, was executed, the nation's first capital punishment since 2022. At the same time, Seiko Hashimoto became the first female president of the Japanese Olympic Committee, making waves in sports governance. Two stark stories of justice and progress in modern Japan. 8. U.S.-Canada. Trade talks stall over tax rose. President Trump froze trade talks with Canada, citing new digital taxes imposed by Ottawa. He declared negotiations on hold until such time as they drop certain taxes. This marks escalating bilateral tensions just as G7 discussions begin to pivot toward Indo-Pacific and Middle East priorities. 9. California. Governor Newsom sues Fox over defamation. California's Governor Gavin Newsom filed a $787 million defamation lawsuit against Fox News, accusing the network of false statements about his dealings with former President Trump. This lawsuit comes amid a wave of high-profile defamation cases involving elected officials and forces a national debate on press accountability versus political influence. 10. Idaho. Firefighter shooting and Ohio plane crash in. Idaho, 2 volunteer firefighters were ambushed and killed while battling wildfires near Coeur d'Alene. A Cessna 441 crashed into homes in Ohio's Howland Township, killing 6 aboard and on the ground, 2 tragedies in one weekend, renewing calls for improved public safety and emergency protocols. That's your ChatGPT Reality Check for June 29th to July 6th. Big headlines, hard truths, and deeper context. If you learned something valuable, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell. See you next Sunday for more real global news. No fluff, all facts.